Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S6061, The Fish Field Trip, Chapter 7. Miss Frizzle tried to steer the magic school fish the other way, but the net swooped down so fast that we couldn't escape. We were caught. What is going on? Cried Phoebe. Somebody must be catching tropical fish, probably to sell for aquarium, Miss Frizzle said. The buzzfish struggled with all its strength, but its fins were tangled helplessly in the net. We are being dragged upward. I don't want to live in somebody's aquarium. Arnold screamed, help. Isn't there something we can do? I asked. I wasn't too crazy about becoming somebody's pet either. Don't worry, kids. The magic school bus still has a few tricks left. With the push of a button, Buzzfish's jaws opened. A pair of scissors came out. Hooray, we all yelled, as the scissors snipped through the net. When we had cut ourselves free, the buzzfish dropped into the water, sped away, but we weren't out of danger yet. Around us, we could see more nets scooping up all the prettiest fish. I think it's time to use a little camouflage ourselves. The buzzfish parked next to some stack-on coral, started changing color, until we were an exact match for the pinkish coral around us. We looked so much alike. The coral that a school of small fish swam over and hid behind us. Why are those people doing this? Why don't they just leave the poor fish alone? They do it because people pay them too. The fish in the fish store have to come from somewhere. And this is where a lot of them come from. Others, like the fish in our classroom, were born to be pet, but isn't the fishing bad for the reefs? Yes, it is. Collecting is a very big problem. Just look around you. The part of the reef where we were hiding looked much less healthy than the place we had been before. A lot of the coral looked dead, and most of it was covered with fuzzy green algae. When you take away the fish, the whole reef suffers. With no fish around to eat the algae, it grows out of control. Too much algae smothers the coral and kills it. But why is it so much worse over here? The area where we were before is part of a marine preserve. It's like a national park, only underwater. In protected parts of the park, fishing is banned. We must have crossed the line and gone outside the preserve. Thank goodness for the preserve. Imagine if the whole reef looked just like this. Many coral reefs that are protected do look like this, said the freeze. But what do the collectors do when they ban fishing? That's a good question, Ralphie. In many countries, catching reef fish is an important source of money. But in the long run, protecting reefs actually improves fishing. Fish need a safe place to breed. New fish born in the marine preserve can live and restock nearby areas. If fishing was legal everywhere, so there would be no fish left. So protecting reefs can mean more fish to catch, not less. Not only that, marine preserves also bring in money from tourists who come to see healthy reefs. So if reefs are protected, everybody wins. That's right. Coral reefs are home to an incredibly rich variety of plants and animals. If we are not careful, much of this diversity could be gone in the next few decades. Gone? Just from fishing? Carlos said. Unfortunately, fishing is the only threat. It's not even the main threat. According to my research, DA said pollution and global warmings are bigger dangers. Even tourists who love coral reefs can accidentally break corals just by swimming around near them. Do you see that big brain coral over there? She pointed to a beautiful round brain coral about 5 feet across. A big chunk was missing from one side. A boat can smash corals like that just by dropping anchor. I guess this just shows how important it is to respect how everything in nature works together. That's right. It is important not to disrupt nature's balance. To my relief, the buzzfish swam back to a healthier area. Miss Frizzle, shouldn't we be going home soon? It's starting to get dark, and we need to get back for the assembly, I added. Not just yet. Night is when things get really interesting on the reef. The freeze said, check out what is happening to the corals. Few switched on the buzzfish's headlight. I side. Miss Frizzle didn't seem worried that we'd miss the assembly, but I knew my Aunt Joanne would be disappointed. At least I would still have lots of great story to tell her. I sat up straighter and looked out the window so I wouldn't miss a thing. All around us, corals were slowly unfurling their tentacles. The little bumps we had seen on the hard corals during the day were opening into clusters of little stalks. Each ring of tentacles is a coral polyp, Miss Frizzle said. At night, they fill themselves with water and inflate to look like blossoms. Why? Wanda asked. To catch plankton, the freeze answered. Even the ones that get food from algae living inside them. Ralphie asked. Yup, said the freeze. Those corals get most of the energy from the algae. But hunting provides other important nutrients they need. According to my research, some soft corals live in water almost a mile deep, where it is pitch black. DA said those corals must have to catch all their food, since there is no light. That's right. But not too much plankton lives down there either. Deep corals mostly collect bits of food called sea snow that sink to the bottom. Look, a feather star, Ralph interrupted. I did a report on those. He pointed to a big tangle of arms stretched out like a net. I was wondering why we hadn't seen any yet. It must have been all rolled up during the day. He started drawing happily in the dim light. It had gotten so dark outside. Then Miss Frizzle shone the bassfish's headlights on the coral until he finished his report. In the distance, I saw some flashing light. I said, I think we have company. Yikes, there's somebody else down here. Oh boy, those are flashlight fish. Those fish carry flashlight? No, the light is coming from the bodies. Lots of ocean animals glow like fireflies do on land. Flashlight fish have two organs below their eyes, filled with glowing bacteria. But what makes them really special is that they can blink the lamps on and off by covering them with a flap of skin like an eyelid. She steered the buzzfish over to where the flashlight fish were blinking the ghostly green light. We follow one, see what happens. The lights moved to the right, so we turned right. The fish were gone. Hey, how did they get away over there? Pointing to left. It's a trick. To escape predator, flashlight fish go one way with the lights on. Then they turn them off and swim back the other way. Wow, those fish are really bright, said Carlos. You might even say they are brilliant. Very funny, Carlos. Miss Frizzle, when you said predators, what did you mean exactly? Oh, sharks, rays. A lot of hunters come out at night. The freeze said cheerfully. Arnold groaned. But why at night? Isn't it easier for small fish to hide when it's dark? Lots of hunters find the victims by smell, so darkness doesn't matter, said the freeze. But some fish have ways to fool them. Look at that. She shone the buzzfish's headlights on what looked like a slimy plastic bag. That's a parrotfish. Each night, it makes a bag of mucus around itself. What's mucus? It's like snot. Carlos said. Sorry, I asked. The mucus bag won't protect if a hunter tries to bite it, said Miss Frizzle. But most predators will go right by that parrotfish because they can't smell it through all that mucus. The thought of sharks and other predators prowling around us in the darkness was starting to creep me out. When I looked out the windows of the magic school fish, I was sure every dark shape I saw was another hungry shark passing by. I tried not to think about it. Besides, we'll be leaving soon to go back for the assembly, and I knew there was one more drawing I wanted to make before we left. Something good. I just couldn't remember what it was. By now, the bus headlights were the only thing lighting up the gloom. The reef was getting more and more spooky. We were getting more and more fidgety. Only Miss Frizzle was humming cheerfully to herself as she steered. Flat square shape rippled under us like a blanket blowing in the wind. I shivered. That's a ray, class. They are closely related to sharks. The ray can hunt without using either sight or smell. It has an extra sense that we don't have. It senses electric fields. What good is that? There is no electricity down here. Actually, there is. All living things generate tiny electric fields with every movement and every heartbeat. So even animals that bury themselves in the sand cannot hide from the ray. Suddenly, the ray dipped his head and dug into the ocean floor, kicking up a cloud of sand. There was a flurry of activity. It found something. The freeze said. I shivered again. A coral reef didn't seem very safe at night. At least if you was a small animal trying to avoid predator. Shouldn't we be going soon? Phoebe said. We still have to give our report tonight. There's one very special thing I want to show you first, the freeze said. Tim, I think you'll be especially interested in this. Did any of you notice the moon tonight? I wondered what the freeze was getting at. Is that what you wanted to show us? Carlos asked doubtfully. The moon? No, but it's actually exactly 3 days after the full moon. Does anyone know what that means at this time of the year? Miss Frizzle asked. Suddenly I remembered what my missing report was about. Yes. Is it really happening tonight? That's right, Tim. Tonight is the night. Miss Frizzle said. Hooray! I said, I can't believe it. One night out of the whole year, and we are going to see it. What are we going to see? Everybody shouted. Go ahead, tell them, Tim. You know how corals are rooted in place? I said that makes it impossible for them to go out and find mate. So to reproduce, female corals send millions of eggs out into the water. At the same time, the male corals send out seeds to fertilize them. What do you mean, fertilize them? The male and female cells combine to make new coral larvae. Each new larva swims around for a while, then settles on the bottom of the ocean to start a new colony. But how can they be sure the eggs and seeds will meet in the water and get fertilized? Phoebe asked. Most of them don't, I said. That's why corals send out so many eggs. A lot get washed out to sea, and a whole lot get eaten by other animals. Remember those sea fans and anemones with their webs and tentacles for catching plankton? They eat a lot of the eggs. So do other animals like small fish. So to make sure some survive, corals send out millions of eggs at a time. Is that what's happening tonight? Carlos asked. Yeah. Some animals spawn or release eggs a few at a time. But corals send out their eggs and seeds all at once. That increases the chances they will mix and fertilize with millions of eggs in the water at a certain time. There's no way that they can all be eaten. It's called a synchronized spawning, Miss Frizzle added. Synchronized just means at the same time. And that time is now. I looked out the window at where the headlights were shining on some hard coral. Hundreds of little eggs were slowly rising up. From it, they were barely the size of the head of a pin. All around us, the same thing was happening. Looked like a snowstorm, only upside down, because instead of falling, snow was rising upward. It looks like a blizzard, said Wanda. More and more eggs were coming out of the corals until it looked like the water was full of drifting snow. It was beautiful. I whipped out my notebook and started to draw. While the class wooed and hawed like they were watching fireworks, I finished my last report. The first time I had drawn it, I hadn't known enough to make a good picture. But now it was going to be my best picture of all. I couldn't wait to show it to the whole school, and especially to my Aunt Joanne, that is, if we weren't too late. I drew a picture of everything I could see in the night scene before me. Branching staghorn coral, lumpy brain coral, big frilly sea fans, and through it all, millions of tiny coral eggs. It looked like something from a fairy tale. The fasten your seatbelts, everyone. Miss Frizzle announced. "We are heading home." I grinned. "We're on our way back. With luck, we just might make it in time for the assembly. And our new book of reports was going to be even better than our last one." I couldn't wait to show it to my aunt. I closed my notebook, yawned, and settled into my seat. It had been a long day. The bus floated up to the surface, then sprouted wings and took off. Within 5 minutes, I was sound asleep. Chapter 8. Back at school, everyone worked really hard to put the finishing touches on our new book. It came out even better than the first one because we were drawing and writing about things we had actually seen. My new picture of the coral spawning at night was on the front cover. At last, it was time for a big presentation. Wanda gave a report on farmer fish. Everyone was amazed to learn that fish raise crops for food just like people do. Then Arnold gave his report on camouflage. Everybody loved his imitation of a stonefish pouncing from a pile of rocks. Next, Ralphie told everyone about how feather stars unfurl at night, which he demonstrated with his arms. And D.A. told everyone about all the ways pollution threatens corals. The whole auditorium was completely absorbed as the rest of the class read their reports and showed their drawing. It was like our presentation was letting everybody share in our incredible trip. Finally, I told everyone about how corals release their eggs all at once, described how amazing everything looks on the reef at night. Then I held up my picture. Everyone clapped for a really long time. I could see my Aunt Joan beaming at me from the audience, right next to my parents. They all looked really proud. When the assembly was over, Miss Frizzle let me hold the book and show it to my family. I was especially excited to hear what my aunt would have to say. She flipped through the book for a long time, looking at every page carefully. I couldn't wait any longer. "Well, what do you think?" "I'm amazed. These pictures are incredible. They're so realistic. You'd think your class had actually visited a coral reef." "But of course, that's impossible." "Of course," I said with grin. I winked at Miss Frizzle and returned Aunt Joanne's hug. It had been a great day. The end.